he'd hit rock bottom, lost the marriage, the house, and custody of his daughter, all in under 6 months. Directionless, he thought about giving up, but instead, he sat and stayed silent for an entire year. What happened next? No one saw coming. Mark had always been an ordinary man. At 38, he lived in Brighton, in the south of England. He worked in IT, followed the same routine as most, woke up early, grabbed a rushed coffee, sat in traffic, answered emails, and came home exhausted. He had a 7-year-old daughter, a wife he'd been with for over a decade, and a life that, on the surface, seemed stable. But what looked like balance on the outside was, on the inside, exhaustion. The marriage had been dragging on in silence for years. Passion had been replaced by duty. Conversations were rare, touches distant, glances almost always avoided. They both knew, but never said. They were just surviving. The breaking point came one autumn night. Their daughter was asleep in her room, and his wife asked to talk. Calmly, she said she wanted to separate. No shouting, no drama, just the ending of a story that had lost its light. Mark tried to argue, to beg, even to blame, but deep down he already knew. She was right, and nothing would change. In the weeks that followed, everything fell apart quickly. The house was sold, custody of the daughter stayed with her mother, and Mark saw the girl on alternating weekends. Friends drifted away, not out of malice, but simply not knowing what to say. And he, alone, sank into confused thoughts, sleepless nights, and a sadness that grew day by day, like a thick fog in his chest. It was during one of those sleepless nights that he typed into Google, "How to stop suffering without spending money." What appeared wasn't a miracle cure, but a simple video showing a Buddhist monk sitting in silence. The title read, "When all is lost, sit. Just sit." It sounded ridiculous, but also possible. The next morning, Mark dragged an old cushion to the living room floor, closed his eyes, and sat in silence. For 3 minutes, that was enough to almost make him quit. His mind screamed, his body ached. The anxiety felt worse, but something made him try again the next day, and the next, and the one after that. Over time, 3 minutes became 15, then 30. And what had seemed unbearable slowly became tolerable, then necessary. During the first 3 months, Mark was still in crisis. He had frequent nightmares, felt anger towards his ex-wife, guilt over his daughter, and an emptiness no meditation seemed to fill. He tried therapy but couldn't get a spot in the NHS. He tried running again, but his body wouldn't respond. It was around that time he discovered a silent retreat called Vipassana. 10 days with no phone, no speaking, no writing, no contact with anyone, just silence and meditation. He thought he wouldn't last 2 days, but he went. The first days were painful. Everything hurt. His body, his thoughts, his memories. On the 3rd day, he nearly left. On the 4th, he remembered his daughter, 2 years old, sitting on his lap, eating strawberries. And he cried. Inwardly and outwardly, he cried what he hadn't cried during the divorce, before or after. He cried for all the parts of himself he had never tended to. When he returned home, something had shifted. It wasn't pure peace. It was just space. A small space between him and the pain. As if, for the first time, he wasn't inside the storm, but observing it from a distance. That's when he made a commitment to himself. He would meditate every day for a year. No skipping, no excuses. He wanted to know what would happen if Instead of running from pain, he simply sat with it. In the months that followed, he built a simple routine. He'd wake up early, sit for 30 minutes, and write in a notebook about what he felt. Sometimes it was just boredom. Other times, painful memories. Some mornings, he cried without knowing why. Other days, he felt a strange lightness, almost uncomfortable, as if he wasn't used to his own calm. He began to notice patterns, how he avoided difficult feelings, how he'd always blamed his ex-wife for everything, when in truth, he'd also checked out emotionally, how he used work as a hiding place, how he'd never learned to truly listen. His relationship with his daughter began to shift. He didn't force conversations, he was simply present. He paid attention when she spoke about school, her toys, her little fears. She noticed and drew closer. Little by little, Mark began sharing what he was learning in short anonymous blog posts. He didn't want followers or fame, just to express what he felt. Some readers found his words. They left comments, said they related, and for the first time, he felt seen by himself. When the year came to an end, there was no celebration, no divine revelation. That morning, he simply sat down, as always, took a deep breath, and smiled. The pain was still there. The longing for his daughter, the grief of the marriage, the uncertainty of the future, but there was space. And within that space, peace. Mark now lives simply. He set up a small studio where he offers free meditation to the community. He doesn't see himself a teacher nor a guru, just someone who one day chose to sit with his own pain and stopped running. His daughter is now 11. During every visit, before dinner, she sits beside him for 5 minutes, closes her eyes, and breathes. Maybe you know someone like Mark, or maybe you are him. And if you are, know this: you don't need to fix everything right now, or even understand. Perhaps the first step is simply to stop, sit, and listen to what silence wants to tell you.